going to be walking you through the webinar strategy behind 7 figures of client results. As you can see right here, one of our clients did $72,000 cash collected with only 19 sales calls booked. We've had multiple 5-figure days for our clients, even getting one of our clients up to $250K with just a paid webinar funnel. So I know everybody and their mother in the info space is talking about paid webinar funnels. So why should you even consider them? Well, the first thing is going to be cash velocity. So with every other funnel, nurture, you have a profile funnel, you have a VSL, you have a call funnel. These leads have to go through a nurturing process. And for sometimes when you first see somebody on Instagram, it typically takes months watching content, getting emails, lead magnets and all that stuff. So what we do with webinars is when that lead comes through, we like to compress the nurture sequence and show them the full process, the proof, the offer, and who you are and your mechanisms on the webinar because it's a free training. So they're getting a boatload of free value. You're pre-handling pretty much all their objections that they would typically have on a sales call. And then you ship them off to a closer after they're interested and they book in a call at the end. And these are some of the best clients and the best leads you will get. Number 2 is making the most out of your pipeline. I know for a fact that a lot of these businesses have a ton of leads that are not converted, but they're on the fence of doing so. They maybe got on a closing call or they were like a no-show, but they were interested and like life got in the way. Typically, there's usually a lot of people, like thousands and thousands of people on an email list, leads that didn't close, like I said, that haven't been taken care of. So we put all of these guys in a free training, tell them it's going to be super valuable, and then they get nurtured throughout the webinar process, and they're like, you know what, let me give this one more shot. And then you're selling one too many, and you get to actually optimize your time as well. So as I mentioned, like a good webinar will hit on emotions, logic, urgency, all in one sitting for hundreds of people. It's literally like you're doing a group sales call for however many people you have in your webinar. So this will throw them through the process very, very quickly. And then once you have them book a call at the end, it'll be very, very good. And there's going to be very easy closes. I don't want to say easy closes, but a lot easier than most funnels we typically see. That's why everybody's ranting about closers and like the closing space. If you guys see anything like, oh, you only close webinar leads. That's so easy. You don't need any skill for that. Well, that's the point. The marketing's supposed to be so good. So closers don't need any skill to close the leads. They should still have a skill, but that's the exact point of a webinar, is basically taking care of the sales process before it even starts. So there's 2 ways to run these webinars. You can do direct to checkout, where instead of having them book a call, you just drop a payment link and you tell them, hey, this is what you get. You can pay now and you'll be redirected for onboarding. Or instead of like the CTA to a checkout link, you can have them book in a call with like a sales team. For sales calls, to be honest, especially B2C info, I would always do a sales call. I would always do CTA to book call. Because keep in mind, these leads are real people and they have fear, they have uncertainty. Typically, they've probably been on other calls before as well. So they're going to need more of a tailored approach to them and their current situation. They're going to need a sales rep leading them through the process. If you have something a bit lower ticket though, $2,000 max, the whole goal should be to have the least amount of friction possible. So to be honest, where it's $5,500 to $2,000, it's not going to be as much. It's not going to be like somebody's shaking before they're pressing the pay button. Typically, you'll have enough urgency and you have enough pain / nurturing built on the call for people to just do direct to cart. But sales calls, I'd always use it on high ticket offers. It wouldn't make sense to do otherwise. This is the biggest thing. If I had to choose one thing to take the most care of on webinars, is going to be your copywriting. So one of the most important things is preparing your copy the right way. If you're not selling or you don't know who your ICP is, it's going to be very, very hard having shitty copy targeting just random people that are not even really problem aware. They just wanted to look into something. So we want to make sure we're targeting actual problem aware leads, problem aware buyers, people that understand what's going on, people that you're going to be able to resonate with their pain points, their current situation. And we use AI to figure out the sort of ICP we want to target. And we can directly structure that and target the copy to everything in terms of webinar slides, in terms of landing page, emails, everything, which is very, very helpful because it'll work with your ICP so well, just literally hooking them straight like a fish. It'll be amazing. Next up is going to be frequency. So some people like to do like weekly webinars. Ideally, I'd say you start with one big webinar per month, especially if you're just starting off or you're just launching an offer. So you can have a big one that is 30 to 50K at first. You get a really, really good ROAS, and you also build more urgency as well because they'll have to wait a full another month. What you can also do with this is do webinar recordings as well. So if you guys use Webinar Jam, which I would recommend at first, but Commas has a new webinar platform, so we might be changing that real soon. What I would recommend is doing the replay as well. So you have a big webinar. You can collect whatever cash, but a lot of times we're able to collect an extra 10 to 30K cash just off the back end of the replay. And typically this can be weeks after. The best time to do it, everyone tells you to do one specific day because it is the standard best practice. I would typically say Sunday, midday, around like 3 to 4, or like a weekday at like 7 to 8 p.m. EST. What we want to target ideally is people that are not working. So obviously if you're targeting like different markets, like European markets, or you're targeting like a bunch of different markets at once, it's going to have to vary. But typically this is the data in terms of like when your viewers on your YouTube, this is when you want to target it. So if your viewers on YouTube from this time frame, yeah, you want to target this time frame. But if they're from 12 to 6, you want to target 12 to 6. The length, a lot of people like to overthink this and they think they need a 3-hour webinar. That's just so many people are going to jump off. I would keep it very brief, between 90 minutes and 120 minutes. You need to keep it simple the first few times, and then you can get fancy with it if you need. But typically, I mean, people's attention spans are cooked nowadays, even mine. So if you have a 3-hour webinar, nobody's going to stay for that. Next up is the landing page. So I'm running you guys through all of this right now in terms of the opt-in and the thank you. Typically, we take all of the traffic, throw it into one opt-in page, and then we have a thank you page as well. So here's what that looks like. Obviously, you have the headline. This is probably one of the most important things because it needs to talk to your brand voice profile and your ICP directly. So this is one of our faceless YouTube offers. Discover the AI system behind 200 plus faceless YouTube channels, client faceless YouTube channels. That makes 3,000 to 6,000 a month passively. Then you have what you're going to learn inside of this live masterclass. You have the trust factor right here. You have the video sales letter, and then you have a free gift. So you want to give them like a reason and an overwhelming amount of reasons to jump on this webinar. So this is the free gift. You give them whatever, my private 6-figure niche list, because typically why we do this is because that's the biggest pain point in terms of the offer is finding a niche. So we give them something that's literally going to ease their pain points, which gives them so much urgency to jump on. And you're just value dropping. Obviously you have meet your host right here, and then you'll have what people are saying. So testimonials, and then you'll have more case studies down here, which gives you pretty much everything you need in terms of the opt-in to A, drive excitement for them to actually show up, and B, actually be able to cross the offer owner as well. Now, this is a different one. I'm not going to say whose client this is, but it's not mine. But this guy's absolutely killing it in the space right now. I work very, very closely with the people running his offer. So typically, you'll have a thank you page as well. So thank you page will be like, congrats, you're registered for Thursday, May 28th at 8 p.m. EST. You'll have the thank you video in terms of saying congratulations and giving them real expectations. So you're giving them positive reinforcement in terms of why they just showed up to this webinar. You're giving them like a little bit of urgency in terms of like, okay, you booked in, these other people didn't book in, these other people are bad. And then you give them clear next steps in terms of what that's actually going to look like and what you're going to cover within the webinar. Next up, you have them all join a WhatsApp group, because once they join the WhatsApp group, you give them a reason to join, which is going to be the free gift. Once they're in the WhatsApp group, you can text them, you can do polls, you can do pre-qualification. You can even have your SDRs reach out to them on WhatsApp and call them before the webinar, or /text them during the webinar as well to pre-nurture these leads. Like if you see somebody in the chat and have them so warm and so amped up that when they come to the call, they're basically ready to buy. So we're giving them an incentive to join the WhatsApp group. Obviously, you tell them to check their email to confirm it so they actually see it and they don't like no show the webinar. And then you have breakout videos. So is this workshop live? What if I can't make the workshop? I've got burned before. Will this work? These are all to either A, shorten time and pre-handle objections. Because typically, if you don't answer these questions beforehand, they're going to just load your closer up with these questions. And if your closer doesn't know too much about the business model, you're cooked. And then you have more case studies right here as well. So the main guidelines, your headline matters a lot, like I just mentioned. You need to be congruent with your ads, email, webinar topic, etc. You need to leverage your unique edges and mechanisms in your ICP's language. So you need to really resonate with the people you're selling to or who you're targeting. And you want to use a pre-webinar lead magnet, such as the niche guide, for example. The more value-dense content your leads watch before the webinar, the better the attendance rate will be. This will also get you a stronger once-close process, and awareness levels will be higher. So at first, you need to sell the webinar. You need to sell the training. You need people to actually show up. It's just like the same practices to making sure somebody shows up on a sales call. Next up is the pre-webinar flow. So after the thank you page, they get hit with emails, and then you can hit them with retargeting ads as well. From there, they'll go watch the webinar. And what we do here is the promotion emails. So the first announcement, thank you for joining the free coaching hook. Value-dense emails, shock hooks, FOMO, 24 hours left, handle their objections. Morning of, 90 minutes until live. So these are all to make sure they show up to the webinar. That's it. That's the only objective here. Post sign up email flow. We follow Jeremy Haynes, hammer them campaigns. Jeremy Haynes is the absolute goat of marketing. I give all my credit to him in terms of everything we've done. So basically, we do this so we make sure that their attention and their awareness level are as high as possible. We want to make sure they know what they're here for. We want to make sure they at least know and they have the intention of showing up. And once they're on the webinar, they're also kind of aware of, okay, they know a CTA is going to be dropped, but the value is so much they're going to say, and they're going to buy into the CTA because you're actually giving them so much value. Post-webinar flow. So like I mentioned a little bit earlier, in terms of the replays, you need to frame the replay as an offer that's extremely limited to them specifically. Typically, we say there's not going to be any replay. And then we kind of just leverage it in soft launch. Okay, we're going to do a replay for XYZ amount of time. WhatsApp group protocol. I know I mentioned this a little earlier, but you'll have the polls to survey attendees. You have the calendar link, case study videos, value-dense content, and just making it look like the offer owner is doing it as well. So we'll have somebody posing as the offer owner on like a WhatsApp business account, and you'll be able to shoot them a message, drop calendar links, pretty much do whatever you need in here. Story sequences. So this is This is easy. I mean, this is very, very simple part. Obviously, there's best practices for that. So our best practice is obviously initial announcement, value comparison in terms of like what they're getting, lead magnet, case study, proof of concept, cost them an action of if they don't do anything, future pace them in terms of what their life would look like in terms of like this is all like closing call procedures in a sense, but you want to do it within the copy. And then one day before, same day. So you just want to run one sequence during the promo period, so you capture all of them. So now these people are seeing your reels, they're seeing the opt-in pages, they're seeing the thank you page, they're even after, they're still seeing more and more things where it's almost going to be impossible to miss if they've been in your ecosystem. Now for the presentation. So once you're actually running the webinar, the most important thing about webinars is truly understanding them. So we made this mistake when we first started, is just like framing webinars as trainings with a lot of value where we CTA at the end. And we've barely had we've even barely had some with like a couple of bookings. What we need to do is literally shift and build belief systems and a model on yourselves and on themselves. If you can accomplish this, then at the end of the webinar, will feel effortless. Like the final pitch close won't feel forced at all and persuasive at all because you're shifting their belief system in terms of actually. So it's almost like you're taking like a hesitant buyer on a closing call and shifting their belief system for the payment. So it doesn't seem like, hey, pay me. It seems like, yo, you need to do something because you've been struggling with XYZ problem for XYZ amount of time. So this is typically our framework. Is the hook, building pain within their life, figuring out why they're here, teasing them in terms of the content, exciting them in terms of like what we're going to cover, position, paradigm, mechanism. So basically running them through the actual trainings and looping it and building doubt within them actually being able to do this on their own. Commitment to them making a change, transition into the pitch. You go over the core offer, you go over a price range. Bonuses are very, very important. So the bonuses and scarcity, bonuses are going to be like, okay, you get XYZ, 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 and XYZ discount if you book a call and join on that call. Scarcity, so saying there's going to be limited spots. Risk, like the risk of not doing anything, quote unquote, and having them pre-framing them on taking the risk on themselves and betting on themselves, pre-framing all the objections, what they're going to be feeling. Q&A time, and then on final close, booking a call, XYZ, XYZ. So here are the SDR best practices because setters are a crucial key aspect. Obviously, triaging booked leads. So we want to confirm qualifications and remove all the DQs from the calendars, closers calendars as soon as possible. So making sure the leads are warm, they have notes on them, stuff like that. Applicants who didn't book in. So calling the people that showed up to the webinar, didn't book in a call. People that maybe didn't find the right time or whatever, we'll have them dial them in terms of like the order of qualification level. Attendees who didn't apply, so people that just didn't even apply for like the call or anything like that, and then no shows, replay, opt-in, stuff like that. Just recover registrants through offering the replay. We don't want to really waste SDR's times in terms of like leads based on like third world countries either. We just want to target the people that are actually qualified. Slack best practices. We want to make sure that all the automations are fully dialed in so the sales team can be efficient and speed to lead is maximized. So we follow a very tight-knit, organized system that allows your team to claim leads and call outcomes without conflicting with each other. We need to make sure that your SDR knows. We want to make sure that like the setters actually understand the qualification guidelines so they can instantly cancel calls so everybody can see it in Slack. Closers, SOPs, and best practices. So first things first is the onboarding. Like we need to make sure these closers are locked in and actually understand the product knowledge and understand the marketing. That's gonna be very important. So we have literally all of the closer SOPs right here in terms of what they need. I don't know why this text looks so weird. I'm pretty sure because we blurred it out a little bit. But basically, this gives them access to everything smoothly. Ramp up period. We hire fast, we fire fast. I don't want to be an asshole, but they have a specific timeline to prove themselves. Otherwise, they will be replaced. We set the KPIs very strict depending on the offer. Management, so reviewing data, figuring out bottlenecks and patterns that need to be fixed to make sure we're making the most out of every single lead and maximizing sales. And then maintenance. So constantly checking in with the sales team and building a good culture to ensure we actually keep the highest talent of the most amount of time possible. This will reduce our churn rate for closers and setters by a lot because we want to sell them on obviously being realistic, but we want to sell them on the vision of the offer after the webinar and what we'll do moving forward. This all leads to multiple thousands of dollars in cash collected. Doing days like this, literally within and having good sales stats within like a day, where we have a 100% show rate. We have a 37.5% qualified close rate on just direct cold traffic. Obviously, we have all the stats here in terms of the setter stats, DM setter end of the day, and then just all like the UTMs as well in terms of where like the leads are coming from. That's it. That's the entire structure of the webinar. If you want something like this completely done for you, opposed to doing offer owner things such as like recording content and actually doing the webinar, if you want this all built out for you, give me a DM or book a call down below and we'll do a real consultation for you. It's not going to be a sales call because if we're going to build out a webinar, we want to make sure you can actually make money from it. So we're not going to sign you as a client if we don't think you can make money, but we will also do our work on doing an audit for your offer to see how this would even work with you. So worst case scenario, you get some free value on how you can do this yourself. Best case scenario, we build this out for you and we make a whole boatload of money. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great rest of your day.